Hello and welcome to Biology Career Insights, the podcast where we talk with experts from the field of biology to gain valuable insights into the careers and explore ways to navigate the job market in this ever evolving field. I'm your host, Dr. Manish Kumar. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Ratna Ghosal. Dr. Ratna Ghosal is an accomplished scientist with a PhD in ecology from the Indian Institute of Science Center for Ecological Sciences, India. She also holds an MSc in Geology and a BSc in Geology from the University of Calcutta, India. Currently, she serves as an assistant professor in the Biological and Life Sciences Division at the School of Arts and Sciences, Ahmedabad University. In India, Dr. Ghoshal has an impressive research record and has won several awards for her contributions to the field of ecology. She has been the recipient of multiple research grants and has published numerous papers in reputable scientific journals. Prior to her current position, she worked as a postdoctoral fellow and a research associate at the University of Minnesota Department of Fisheries, Wildlife, and Conservation Biology at St. Paul, Minnesota. Welcome to the BCI podcast, Ratna, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Manish, for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to talk to you and connect after years.
Amazing. So I must say that I and Ratna, we both were in IISc, and I know her since, I think, 2008. So it is already like more than a decade of a connection. So, Ratna, let's dive in straight away. What inspired you to pursue a career in science, and how did you get started in the field?
Right. So I think that will really go into my school days, which is like ages back. I I think now I can fairly say that I was always a pretty good student, maybe a little bit studious, more studious. So my parents really didn't complain a lot about not studying or something. It was the other way around. More or less, I was good in science, like overall. And those days in the school, there was nothing called separately as physics, chemistry. We had physical sciences and chemical sciences put together. And then we had life sciences and mathematics. So I think till my school final, or or even I can say that my plus two education. So 12 years of school education, I was more or less good in overall science, but I really didn't decide at that stage that I will be actually looking specifically into only one branch of science that I'm deeply passionate later or at this stage, which is ecological sciences. So I think science was not I will not say it was like a choice. It was very a natural decision for me because I was good in science, and also those days, if you go back, the mindset of most of the parents as such was that if a student is more or less good in studies, then science is the only thing for them. Because at that stage, sadly, they did not pay much attention towards humanities subjects like English or like history, something. So that was came very naturally to me that I'm going to take sciences. So that is something that I got into sciences, and later definitely I did my undergraduate degree in zoology, and that has a different story. So
So here I have some experience. So most of the people had confused. Somebody wanted to be an engineer, somebody wanted to be a doctor, but very less people were very clear on becoming a scientist in future during their school days. So what was the case with you, and what prompted you to kind of choose between biology or math stream, or did you choose both?
I was no different, Manish. So because of the pressure, or not really pressure, my family that way didn't get any pressure because more or less I love studying. I was really this unusual kid who really wanted to be sit with a book and all that. So I really did appear for JEE and medical as well. And I got it. Yes, I appeared for both, and I did not clear engineering, but I did clear medical. And I got into not the so I was appearing from eastern part of the country, but I did not get in the eastern part of the country. It was in the southern part. It had a different exam name also. I forgot the name of the exam. It was not a part of JEE. It was part of. QSET or some exam. I don't know. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah. So, but yes. So at that stage, when I was in my class 12, like plus two post my school education, it's a little bit 11 and 12, the later part. I was in general interested in animals. And these animals for me was just ants, birds, and dogs, because those are the only things that you can watch in your neighborhood. I those days I did not go for any summer campaign or no as such, different kind of summer workshops that the school kids now go for. I didn't have that facility. So for me, it was just like spending time at home and reading storybooks. And while reading the storybooks, watching all these birds and stray dogs and ants and honeybees or wasps. So I didn't know that you have a field like this, but all I knew that I love biology. I always liked biology more than maths and physics and chemistry. So I thought like, okay, so when I got into that medical, which was in the southern part of the country, my parents really thought that I should go for that. But then comes like I made this disastrous announcement that I'm not going to pursue medical, and they were really bad at me. But I kind of explained to them that, I don't want to pursue medical. That was something my family wanted me to give the entrance exam, and that's why I gave it. But I really wanted to pursue biology. And why I am in was so much interested in biology, I think I could relate better. I give all the credits to my teachers in the school, because I think they taught it as a very lively subject, whereas unfortunately physics, chemistry, and mathematics appeared to be as very dry subject, which I cannot relate to in the real world. Biology, fortunately, was taught to me as a very real world, very subject which has a full of life. So maybe that was the reason that I decided that I will continue my undergraduate degree in biology.
And which school and which undergraduate college did you go?
Right. So my school was till class 10 was Vidya Bharati, which is in Niwazpur, Kolkata. And then 11, 12 was Pathabhabam, which was Baliganj Circular Road, Kolkata again. And then my undergraduate degree was Department of Zoology, Thakurpukur College in Kolkata again.
Kolkata. So you're born and brought up in Kolkata, and then
Born and brought up in Kolkata. Yeah, yeah.
and then how did so you were saying that you loved animal, but you did not make that time a conscious decision of pursuing ecological sciences and wildlife conservation, particularly like
I didn't even know these terms. Honestly, those days, I did not even know what is ecology, what is wildlife. No. And look at our school books. Even today, look at our school books. They don't really teach you a lot of ecology and wildlife. It's more general about cell and, mitochondria and not
biology. Yeah.
right. And those things are also important, but I think at the same time, also teaching ecology, evolutionary biology are very, very important.
Absolutely.
Right away from school.
So when was that inflection point? When did you realize that you want to move in that direction?
Right. So I think looking back, I've been very fortunate with my teachers and mentors, and I aspire to be one. I think my students can tell whether I'm fulfilling their expectations. So during my undergraduate degree in the Department of Zoology in Thakurpukur College, I had a very inspiring mentor, and he also did his PhD from Indian Institute of Science. He was Professor Madhav Gadgil's student, and his name was Professor Shilanjan Bhattacharya. And he was my professor during my undergraduate college. Now, I used to be this kid who was very enthusiastic, as I was mentioning, about nature, and I used to go for so that's the time I was first exposed that, I can do these small workshops or, 1 day long seminars with the different NGOs. There were small NGOs those days present in Kolkata, like PubMarks, like Save the Wildlife. And, they wanted volunteers just to if you want to do tiger census in Sundarban, can you volunteer for us? Or if you want to count the butterflies in Lava Lolegaon, can you volunteer for us? To be very honest, I started those volunteers to just seem to be very lucrative pocket money and, to get away from family for a few days and enjoy the, beauty of nature for those few days. Those are the reasons I started out. But he was watching while I in the classes as well as all in my activities. I used to share with the professors that I like going to these kind of camps and workshops and seminars. And he inspired me in many different ways. He gave me the right kind of books to read, ecology and wildlife, like George Schuller's book, or even if I remember, uh, that the Chapman Risk by Ecology, which I still follow now to teach my own students. Those are the classical books that he exposed me to. And he also said that why don't you, rather than this hopping around and jumping around, and which you think as your hobby, why don't you convert this into your profession? And I am yeah, and I am like, okay, can you just do this as your profession? Like, I thought it will be like, just like fun. Those days, I was also thinking that maybe I'll join pharma for some reason. Don't ask. I don't even remember why took that
I
decision.
think all these because of the societal conditions,
Could be.
Yeah. Mhm.
I even got into one of the pharmaceutical company, like a job, like campus interview. And I told my dad that I don't want to do a master's because I got this job and I'm pretty good. I can do this job and live a free life and all that. And he's like, nobody's listening to you. Just you have to do masters and I don't pay attention what you are saying. So, so I think I gave a lot of credit to Professor Shilanjan Bhattacharya for actually launching me in the field of ecology.
Wow.
He inspired me. He still inspires me in many different ways.
Mhm.
And he is the one who told me that there is a center, there is a whole department known as the Center for Ecological Sciences in Indian Institute of Science, which who does this kind of research.
Wow.
So if you enjoy watching wildlife, and by then, though during the school days, I was only watching ants and birds and stray dogs because of the summer camp and summer activity and my NGO work, I got exposed to wildlife. Okay, I could watch. I was fortunate to see when I went to Sundarbans tigers. I was able to see butterflies and beetles in Lava Lolegaon and many different free ranging of wild birds during all these visits. So from domestic or urban biodiversity or the urban non-human life that I grew up during my school days. At this juncture, during my undergraduate, I also got exposed to wilderness, wildlife, actually, the forest. So, and that inspired me even more. I'm like, wow, like, these are so many different types of birds and animals, and they do different things. So, my interest grew bigger. And at the same time, he also exposed me towards a theory and concepts and, the science of it. Because I was only watching them as a naturalist and without having a lot of knowledge about the science of it. So he exposed me to the right books, the teaching through his own classes and courses, and also exposed me to Center for Ecological Sciences, Indian Institute of Science. He showed me the website. He said he himself was a PhD student. Then he was Madhav Gatgil student. He graduated from there, and he's like saying it's an amazing department. You should explore. You should look when you can do an opportunity there. And that's how the journey, or that's how I should say that was like the first step of my journey towards ecological sciences.
Amazing, amazing. So that, I mean, goes on to show the power of mentorship, the right mentorship.
Yes.
That
Totally.
amazing.
So then after that, so his mentorship didn't end here. He also used to, so those days we use, I think we still have it, Indian Academy of Sciences, which is in New Delhi.
Yes.
They come up with science magazine for undergraduate student, which is Resonance.
Yeah.
He,
So I
yes,
current
exactly.
science, resonance, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. So he used to subscribe for Resonance, his own personal subscription, and he used to bring Resonance to the department, the magazine. And there, he showed me that, see, Indian National Science Academy, the INSA, has advertises for summer internship, summer fellowship, where, you can choose if you want to really explore this field. It will be good for you to go to CES, like Scientific Ecological Sciences, IISc, and see if you fit in there, because watching them, observing them is a way different thing than day in, day out collecting data for scientific, research on them. So by then, I had finished my undergraduate and I had joined for my master's program, master's in zoology itself.
In Calcutta, in the same university, right?
So from the college, I went to university now, Calcutta University. My undergraduate was in a college, and then I went to Calcutta University. So there I took special paper ecology, but that's more theoretical with a lot of excursions and all that. But he said, why don't you apply for this summer internship? And see if you get accepted at Center for Ecological Sciences. So then I said, okay, but here when I like print those days, I didn't even have it's not like today's Wi-Fi and internet. You have to go to a cyber cafe.
Yeah, absolutely. With a dial-up connection, yeah.
Yeah, just visit a website, we download the form to get it printed. So I printed the form and then that said that preference, which lab do you want to do a summer internship? You can choose any lab across India. So this was not for ecological sciences. INSA gave summer fellowship for anybody interested in doing science internship. So I wanted to go to CES, but I was that time not sure whose lab I should pick actually, because CES itself was like a new thing for me. So then I browsed all that, and the keywords I used is like wildlife, free-ranging and all that. And every time it came up Sukumar. And Professor Sukumar's lab and Center for Ecological Sciences. And I read his profile. When I was working in an NGO in Kolkata, to go back a little bit, sorry, you can stop me if I'm like...
No, that's correct. So you were working parallelly for an NGO during your bachelor's for the...
Yes, I started working at a very... so this working is like just a little bit of pocket money. This working is not like, that's like part-time jobs kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I started working for NGOs when during the first year of my undergraduate. That's the time I started. Okay. There was a lot of I faced, my mom was very supportive, but my dad kind of told me that, I am like wasting time and not studying and all that. But eventually I was a very stubborn kid. So eventually they accepted. Because that is something that gave me the kind of, around freedom to go to all these national parks and sanctuaries, and also visit Kolkata. I had done malaria project with an NGO where we visited different slums in Kolkata in order to check their blood sample if they had malaria or didn't have malaria, to give free samples of medicine, even free samples of mosquito nets, and even doing surveys. This was as a part of the municipal corporation of Kolkata.
Wow, so you had the exposure of field work basically, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I just wanted to be outside. So that was my thing. And any excuse that will take me to anywhere outside after my college hours, I will be more than happy to. So I started traveling also. I not say alone, but in a group, not family, but with NGO people or with some friends.
With colleagues or friends, yeah.
Right. But I totally think that this really helped me. First, it gave me a lot of kind of street smartness. Second, it also gave me a lot of confidence in myself, like, asking questions to people, traveling around, managing your own finances while traveling or while visiting these places. It helps you in many different kind of skill development.
Absolutely.
Which those days it was fun, but now I realize that, I did gain a lot by doing all this. So now when the coming back to the summer internship that was my first year of masters. And even my master's professors were also very supportive. They knew that I had this kind of
Inclination towards ecological sciences. Yeah.
so I asked them that if I go for summer internship for 3.5 months, what happens to my attendance and all that? Because you have to take regular courses and attend classes. So the head of the department, Professor Subir Majumdar, it's Subir Dasgupta, sorry, not Majumdar, Subir Dasgupta. Again, was a very good mentor, still very supportive. I think I've got the best professors, honestly, all throughout. So he said that I take care of all that. If you really want to pursue something like this, I'll take care of all that. All you have to do is like submit a formal letter, but you have to promise that you can't fail any courses. And that much confidence I have in you that if I give you the notes, he said he will collect the notes for me.
Wow.
Okay, all those lectures, and he's going to give it to me when I'm back from the internship.
Amazing.
And then by just reading the notes, I have to clear the exams. I can't fail the exam. Then his space loss happens. Then it can't be. I said, yeah, don't worry about it. I'll pass the exam. But he's like, first apply. Don't even know if you will get selected. So then I filled out the form. But I still remember the form had for this International Science INSA summer internship had preference 1, preference 2, preference 3. You can give 3 labs that you want to work on.
Yeah.
You can call it my stupidity or, my, confidence or whatever you want to call. I only gave 1 preference, Professor Slender's lab. And even my undergraduate professor and my master's professor, because I needed their signature as kind of like endorsing or like that. So they said, madam, what, like any lab, you will still get the exposure of doing master's internship there. I said, but I don't want to go into any other lab. I only want to go in this lab. So why would I give other preferences?
So you had that clarity, and it shows your stubbornness also, right? As you were saying that, I was a stubborn kid.
I was very, but Anish, I think those days, if you're I don't know, I can't explain that to anybody. Like Forest gave me that when I enter Forest and I'm doing field work, it gave me that kind of like pleasure and happiness that is like unmatched. I never got it anywhere else, and I still don't get the kick that I get while doing field work. I'm the happiest person when I do field work. So that is the thing. So then everybody told, okay, fine, submit if you get selected and blah blah and all that. So then I submitted and I forgot about it because master's first year is extremely rigorous and all that. And then I think then I received this letter one day that yes, you are selected. And Kumar's lab only, and this is the duration. They even pay you a stipend. Okay. And this month you have to join, and that's all. Now I was like jumping up and down, and on the top of that, I received an email from Sukumar. I created the email only. Those days, when was email? I created that email only to apply for this fellowship. Then I get an email from Sukumar saying that yes, I'm looking forward to your joining and all that, and let me know when are you arriving. Okay, and he shared his number. But, I had seen Sukumar when I was working as an undergraduate in an NGO, and he had come for that Save the Wildlife NGO's one seminar. And when I joined Sukumar as a PhD student, finally, several years after, I told him that, do you remember this small kid who came and gave you your return tickets from Kolkata to Bangalore? And he was like, I said, like, this particular date and all that, I listened to it. He gave a talk there. Fall of the Elephant, must. That was his talk.
You still remember that? Yeah, vividly. Wow.
I still remember. So I said that I listened to that talk, and it kind of like so connected with me that, somebody who has worked for so many years in wildlife and forest and all that. So I was kind of like stargazed kind of those days. As
awestruck, sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So, but now when, I got a letter from INSA as well as his email, that yes, I'm looking forward to it. And he even shared his number saying that you can call me when you are arriving and all that.
Mhm.
But the main bottleneck there was I was yet to tell my father. All this application I did by only keeping my mom in the loop and not my dad. So somehow I managed. In fact, my both the professors, particularly my undergraduate professor, he came home to convince my father.
Wow.
Father was dead against that. No, I am not going to send my daughter somewhere and all that. So then, when I left for my summer internship, both my parents came and they also, for the first time, saw IISc along with me. And they kind of like, everything was very well kind of arranged by.
And anyone, who visits IST, they kind of, once they admire the beauty of IST, right? They kind of,
Right, right, right. And in fact, I was not even an ISc student. This was like a summer fellow by Indian National Science Academy, but which is just, I don't know if you have seen that C.V. Raman Avenue, and just
yes, yes,
across the
yes, yes.
Raman Research Institute, within that is the INSA office.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
I remember, yeah. And you have a canteen also, yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I stayed in a hostel in RRI, Raman Research Institute, as an INSA summer fellow, but work in ISc. Okay. So that is my official start in the field of ecology when I entered actually Professor Kumar's lab in Center for Ecological Sciences, IISc, as a summer fellow during first year of my master's in zoology.
Amazing, amazing. And then, that I think you were exposed to, the research world and IAC as a institute, and you were determined on to go and do your PhD there, or how did PhD happen?
So I did not get that much exposure to IISc because the day I landed, 1 week after, I was transported to Motumalai field station.
Oh,
Center for Ecological Sciences has the field station, which is in Masinapuri in the Motumalai Tiger Reserve. And I was, my project was discussed with Sukumar. Anyways, those days was very busy and all that. As such, as a professor, I can also understand. So his at that time was Dr. Arun Venkatraman was working with Sukumar. And Arun actually was my direct mentor
okay.
during the summer fellowship. And Arun was working on wild dog and spotted deer. So he was mostly working on wild dog, but spotted deer is the main prey for wild dog, who is a predator for spotted deer.
Mhm.
So he kind of said that, do you want to work on alarm behavior of cheetal, which is wild dog, which is spotted deer, sorry. And he showed me his presentation, his papers, his, you know, uh, the kind of data that he has been collecting and all that. And then that was like, too much for me to grasp. This is the first time I'm seeing like, data and scientific data and trying to understand the concepts of how wild dogs, hunt in, which is called cooperative hunting. All these are extremely new terms for me. And I'm trying to grasp all that. Suddenly, after like 3 to 4 days, he's like, okay, enough. We have talked about it. Now let's go to the field. I said, what? Field? And he's like, yeah, we will go to Mudumalai Tiger Reserve and you will stay there. So your summer internship duration is for 3 months. 2.5 months you can stay there. And after 2.5 months, you come back, analyze the data, and we see how is the report to be submitted and all that. And I was like, okay, I was excited, but at the same time, it was not like taking kids to a nature camp or taking this, people to do census of tigers and all that. This is real science. Like, this is real ecological science that I'm supposed to collect data. So I was pretty nervous also about it. So, but nonetheless, we reached the Masinapuri field station and then started the very hard field work, which started at 5 in the morning and ended in 6 in the evening.
Oh man, so that's really hard, right?
And that's not the first time I see real forest. It's not that in the forest you get vehicles. It's all by walking several kilometers, getting bitten by all sorts of insects. Like, I remember when I came back from my summer internship, I got off from the train and my father walked past me and he couldn't recognize me.
Oh shit. So you were like all like what, tanned or
sand, which is by so these are stick bites you get. Okay, these are small insects which live in bushes and trees and also in several animals. So they jump from trees to your body and they suck blood. Okay, and when the first time you get bitten by ticks, it develops a very bad allergic reaction. Okay, and you look like, have you seen those dogs which actually has lost their fur and they look like a little bit diseased?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh,
You almost look like that. Tan is like,
just
yeah,
one thing. Yeah.
this was the thing. I, this is like really true that my father walked past me and he couldn't recognize me. I had to call him out. But
So did you?
God,
So did you? This is so funny. So did you also lose weight or like what happened?
yes, yes, that
Okay.
was always there. Like, definitely you lost. People lose several
That
kgs.
because 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. in the while. I mean, I'm sure like people will have dehydration and stuff like that. It's
We used to carry water and some portion food.
yeah. No, that's amazing. But you enjoyed that, right, Ratna?
I forgot to call my home after I reached Modumalai, like my field work started. I forgot to call home for 3 weeks. And after 3 weeks, they got Modumalai field station's number from the website or something, or some letter that I kept at home. From there, my father called me and he freaked out. He's like, why are you not calling us? And I'm like, oh my God, I forgot, because it was like I was living my dream. Like, this is like my dream come true.
Wow, amazing. And then after that, you were like, once you were back, you were sure that you want to come back to IISc for your PhD, isn't it?
Yes, for sure, but modular mechanism, I hadn't decided.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I did. When I came, so actually not really that time. See, that time I was too overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed with the data. I was overwhelmed with the field work. I was also, when I came back, I was also like really liked all the people that was there in Sukumar's lab. They were like, very good company. Also, every other day you get to learn a new thing. These are kind of the things that also that I wanted to learn, like, because I was passionate about observing wildlife, but I didn't know how to scientifically study them. And these are the people who every day will bring and talk about this kind of things on a tea break or a lunch break, like that. So I think that time I was like at this excited stage, like at a very high energy level. I really didn't have a lot of time because I was supposed to come back after 2.5 months, because my internship was only for 3 months. But I remember I came back 1 week before the internship ended, because there was so much data and things to do that I came back only 1 week before I had to leave or return to Kolkata. So then it was all compilation of the data. I had to submit a report, which was also not a at that stage I couldn't analyze all the data that I collected. But the National Science Academy told us, don't worry about it. Not 3 months is not enough. We all know that. So just do a report. I also gave a presentation to Sukuman that this is what I did and all that. Then I returned to Kolkata. So I think the thought process started after I returned.
Yeah, Ratna. So, as a follow-up question, perhaps you can highlight how did you apply to PhD at ISC and also briefly about the application process. That would be great.
Right. So I came back after all this summer internship, and I had to really focus on my final year master's that time, because I already had lost, did not lose, but obviously the management of the university will think I lost. 3 months I had to cope up the missed classes and lectures. And then I finished my master's and uh, uh, in zoology with a special paper ecology. Now, that same year of the master's, I had also applied for a PhD program in IISc, but I could not. So that time, I only wrote the All India IISc exam, the entrance examination. I got qualified for the entrance examination. I went for the interview, but I was not shortlisted for the from the first round to second round. So IISc, every department has 2 rounds of interview.
Yeah.
So the first round, only when you clear, then you get shortlisted for the second round. Now, first, I think one of the reasons to think back is like I couldn't qualify for the first round in the first attempt because I did not expect. So when I entered, I was also a bit nervous because the whole entire divisional faculty will be sitting there as a panel, and they ask you all sorts of concepts.
The random questions. Yeah.
Ask you one fact. Okay. They will make you stand near the whiteboard and draw this graph, draw this, design this experiment, blah, blah. I think that was for me because I just did the summer internship. Then I came back and I preparing for the master's final program, right? Final exam. I didn't have enough time to get all my concepts cleared or even to face an interview. In fact, when I did not even expect that I will clear the entrance exam, like the written exam. Nonetheless, I came back with a very sad face to Kolkata, but I decided that I'm going to crack this exam. So what I decided is that by then, I had this exchange of emails with Professor Sukumar. And I told him that, can I join your lab for project assistant, which is like short-term project positions. So he said, I don't have any opening for a full-term project assistant, but I have something for the part-time, which will just, you have to do this kind of data collection from the field, like from Mutumalai itself. But if you are interested, you can come and join. I can't give you a hostel in IISc, but you have to stay in the field station and do that. So I think one of the decisions that it was very difficult for me to take that decision that should I stay back at home and prepare, or should I go there, do a part-time job and plus prepare for my exams. And I also wanted to write the CSI NET exam.
Exactly. I was about to ask you that, yes. That did you apply elsewhere as well, or you were just focused on that?
I didn't apply elsewhere, but I just didn't want to keep all the eggs in one basket just to clear the IISc entrance. I wanted to clear CSI and NET also.
Yeah.
So then I kind of took the second decision that I want to go to CS for IISc only because of the reason I thought that I will get the exposure to go to the library, get enough books, study. Also, these other senior students, by then I had developed a rapport with them because I was a summer intern. So they could also help me with the
yes, absolutely.
With the exam preparation and all that. Away in Kolkata, I somehow felt like, maybe I will not be able to be prepare well enough. So with that part-time, whatever offer Sukumar gave, I landed up in his lab again. And he's like saying, I can't keep you in Bangalore. You have to go to Mumbai. So I took all the books, as much books I could take from CS library. And I went to Mumbai. I used to that time do field work from again 6 in the morning to 11 in the morning, not till 6 p.m. And then come back because mine was a part-time position.
Exactly.
Then come back, study. Then again go to field from 3 in the afternoon to 6 in the evening. And then again come back, wash up, have your dinner, and then study. This was my schedule. I cleared CSI and NET. I cleared All India IISc entrance.
Yeah.
And the first round of interview at CS, I still remember, my interview lasted for 1 hour.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
With all sorts of questions. And Sukumar was the only one who didn't ask any questions. Everybody, Professor Nanjundya, Professor Katatkar, Rene Borges, Rohini everybody, NV Joshi, 1 hour, I still remember, my first round of interview lasted for 1 hour. I was like,
totally grilled, yeah.
Exactly. So yes, I got then shortlisted for the second round. Second round was more for first round, they do your conceptual testing, actually. And they grill you in all sorts of ways. Whereas in the second round, it's more, they narrow down. They actually try to find out in the second round that where do your interests lie?
Exactly.
Which lab are you planning to join? Where your interests lie? Is it going to be a good match between your interest and that you're applying? So that is the kind of the second round. So during the second round was a easy piece of cake, like it was like a cakewalk for me, kind of, because I was very clear I'm going to join I'm going to work on wildlife and I'm going to join Supan. It was probably from his side, he has to think that whether he wanted to take a student. Okay. Because I had it all, I'm going to join Supan. No, I have no other option. I still remember RG, like Mr. Gadakar asked me, are you sure you don't want to do like animal behavior kind of work? I said, yes, I want to do animal behavior kind of work, but only on wildlife, only on in the field. And he's like, okay, okay, I understand that. So then I think then the merit list comes. So interview in IISc, the first round goes on for almost 3 to 4 days. And the second round, because they shortlist so few people, at least those days, that second round gets over in one day itself.
Exactly. It was same for me. Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
the first round lasts for much more days because you have more number of people, and then the second round is filtered.
Pool is larger in the first round. The pool is much, much smaller, like, in the second round. So then, by the second round, the same day, that evening, really late in the evening, they took out the merit list. And I was like, happy that I got into CS as a PhD student.
Wow, amazing, amazing. So that was your beginning of your PhD. And now, PhD is a very interesting tenure, right? So, I mean, and it's full of your highs and lows. And I've heard,
Lows and highs.
yeah, you can say that. uh, but I mean, a real PhD is the one where like people always think of quitting it. And sometimes they quit, sometimes they don't quit. So did that thought, cross past your mind? Tell us some interesting stories about your PhD. And why I'm asking that is because, many PhD students who are currently in this phase might relate to it, that they are normal if they are thinking about.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I think the enthusiasm to do a PhD lasts only for 1 year after joining. Okay. And why does it last for 1 year? Because my coursework was for 1 year. Okay.
Yeah. So you can interact, move, make friends. Yeah. First time
Learning everything. And honestly, like the teachers in IISc are pretty good. Like I took Nachoday's course, I took Mahadevan sir's course, Rene's course, Ashi's course. So Kumar's course, all these courses, Amitabh Joshi's course. So all these courses, like, it's so exciting because you're learning new things. And, if you love, obviously, because you enrolled yourself for a PhD, the bottom line is that you like studying, you like learning things. So that's the 1 year. The joy is like the honeymoon period. Okay, 1 year. After 1 year, the thing comes that what is going to be your PhD project? And for me, because Sukumar's lab was huge. It was 35 people, PhD students, integrated master's student, his own postdocs, research staff, 35 people. And getting to meet Sukumar is like, I don't know, like once in a blue moon. Okay, because he used to be extremely busy, is well known, famous, traveling all over. But you are this first year PhD student who was wondering, like, what is going to be my project? Because I'm like excited about many different things, but what is going to be my PhD? So then I said that, okay, I'm going to write up whatever I did for my master's. I did what I was telling you, wild dog predation and understanding fetal alarm behavior against wild dog predation.
Like the spotted deers and the wild dogs.
And the wild dogs. Okay. And by that, I had a fair amount of knowledge. In fact, I have also published the paper for my master's. So,
before you started your PhD, you already had a paper.
That when I was applying for my postdoc, that's the time I published my master's paper. Oh. Even after even after my PhD. Because there's no time to go back.
No, but this, people who are very much upset about not publishing, you can communicate that it takes time, it takes, especially in India, where like the reagents can come very late and stuff like that, So it is very common that people end up publishing late. So one doesn't need to, kind of think really.
For me, more than the reagent, I think because I was doing one thing after the other. Immediately after my master's thesis, I joined the PhD, and IISc coursework is also pretty rigorous, extremely rigorous. I did not really have the time to go back to my master's data and analyze it properly to publish it. By then, I already joined the cycle of thinking for a new project for my PhD. Okay. So then, anyhow, based on whatever I did on masters, I developed a proposal because the senior students in the lab told me it always helps. If you develop a proposal, it will be, and then you can go and discuss with someone. So then I said, okay, fine, I'll do that. So in my own, maybe it's not the kind of proposal that I write now, which thankfully gets funded, but those days, I
Those days you were a beginner in writing. Now you're like a professional.
exactly. So then I wrote up, I told him, I showed it to him. He's like, okay, this is an interesting project, but I want you to work on elephants. I said, what? He's like, yeah, I want you to work on elephants because most of my PhD students work on elephants. Some work on climate change, some work on plant action, like 50-hectare plot maintenance. So they work on, trees and plants, forest dynamics. So I said, okay. So he's like, yeah, take 1 month of time and develop a similar proposal, but on elephants. I said, but what are elephants? Like, what? Which topic? He's like, that you read up, that you actually find out what is known, what is not known. It has to be novel and all that. I am like, okay. So then that is another journey, like reading up, trying to find a new project and all that I did.
And
Then I
that's
went
already 1 year of PhD is done.
already.
Yeah.
I will be for comprehensive exam. 6 months down the line, I had to face a comprehensive committee where I'm supposed to present my preliminary proposal or
Yeah.
pilot data or something, literature review like that. So then maybe he gave me 1 month time, but I don't know how long I took, maybe 2 months or something. And then I went to him again. I said, okay, I have developed this proposal on elephants. I contacted everybody. So I have one of my collaborator who is Dr. Andre Ganswith. He is in University of Pretoria, South Africa.
Yes, sir.
We know each other for 18 years.
Wow.
Okay. I wrote to him when I was a first year PhD student, and he was a postdoc working on African elephants.
Wow.
Okay. So because I wrote to all sorts of people, like, to give me idea, as well as in the lab, I had Vidya, who is now a faculty at JNC. She was my senior student, very senior to me. So all sorts of knowledge I was gathering that, what to work on it. Then I developed this project on elephants, which was supposed to be on hormones and pheromones and behavior. So I also spoke to one of the very established lady. She passed away now, Beth Rasmussen, who discovered the first elephant pheromone. And she was so nice. She was, those days itself, she was like 70, 75, still working.
And where was she based? Where was she based?
She was in Oregon University. Yes. And I was, and she was even Sukumar's collaborator. They have published papers. And by reading those papers only, I got interested in pheromone and hormones of elephants. And she was like this blessing to me. She was helping me. She was like giving me like novel areas which you could look for working as a PhD project and all that. So based on all this ground, whatever survey or whatever I did, I prepared a proposal and I went to school. I still remember that time he was in Mothumalai and I traveled to Mothumalai to show him the proposal. He's like, okay, it's a pretty good proposal. And I really like hormone and pheromone. Nobody has worked and I will be interested in how to look at hormones and correlate hormones with behavior and all that. He's like, but I am not an expert in hormones. Like he's saying, so I'm quoting him, I'm not an expert in hormones. And you are not either. Like you need mentorship.
Now I know why you were like roaming around MRDG and CGS.
Yes. Who was going to be your mentor? I'm like, what? Who's going to be your mentor? He's like, yeah, so who is going to teach you this hormone assays, hormone measurements, developing antibodies? Okay, this is all very biochemistry kind of work, right? Molecular biology, biochemistry. Who is going to be teaching you that? So I don't know, like you're supposed to tell me. Is that no? I don't tell you. You are IISc student. You go visit different websites, different departments and find out who you can, collaborate with.
Yeah.
So then I looked again, my thought started, okay. And at that time, that was the kind of the, the trajectory for frustration started. I'm like, everything. But, when I look back now, I really thank him for putting me through all these challenges, because
Absolutely.
it helps you to think through for a research project. It gives you the credibility and happiness that you designed it. You
Absolutely.
wanted to, as well as networking. Like Beth has passed away because she was, like, by the time herself she was very old. But Andre, many other people, okay, I'm still good friends and colleagues because I started at that time networking with them.
Absolutely. And as you rightly said, in hindsight, when you look back to all these things, thank God that you were not spoon fed, because then you also develop being a independent scientist, and that's what the training is for.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is, I think I give the entire, like, kudos to him that he put me through all these challenges, and more challenges was about to come. But this was like already at a first year PhD student, too much to handle. Now, then, and also the other frustration comes because you keep comparing, contrasting with your batchmates that, for them, already the project is designed, they're running gel or they're going to field to collect data. And I'm here struggling to find a question, collaborator, like all these things.
And
But
somebody has already published because he was working on an ongoing project. That,
somebody has published, and when you go for this, you go to for lunch to mess, and they are like saying, my project is going so fine. What about you, Ratna? I am like, I don't even know what is my project actually. Like, that is the stage. So, but then, okay, nonetheless, so I found Professor Seshagiri's lab, who works extensively on hormones actually. So then I went to Sukumar. I said, I was very happy that this time I will be all done. So then I went to Sukumar, and he's like, okay, what happened? You found? I said, yes, I found processation. He's like, they work in and out on hormones, and they develop antibodies, because there's no antibody for measuring hormone metabolite, which will be present in an elephant poop sample. How will I measure it? I need an antibody. All these things. So he is like, very, you found one. Processation is also a very good friend of mine. Why don't you take your proposal, make an appointment with it, and see if you can convince him to be a collaborator on this project? I said, well, and why will you not do it? And that time I just said it to him. Okay.
yeah.
I just told him on his face that why will you not do it? He's like, whose baby is this? He's also I really liked his mentorship. He's like, whose baby is this? I said, it's my baby, baby. So he's like, okay. So then go ahead. I will meet you once you have convinced him. So then and then rest is history. Obviously, I could convince Professor Seshwari. He's like, I will get convinced if you actually take my course on endocrinology and can clear that course.
Yes.
I can clear. I will study and I will clear your endocrinology course and all that. You first say yes to the project.
But
And
I
then
attended his course as well. He's good teacher, Professor.
very good.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is another level of mentorship that I like. Late night, I'm packing this gel beads to purify my antibody. I'm standing in the cold room. It was almost like 10:30, 11 in the night. And suddenly, when the cold room door opens, there's this suction, right? You look behind and and obviously, you will think that another student has come to keep something in the book. I say, Seshagiri. And he's like, okay, are the beats packed? Are you okay? And he was always there injecting, the metabolite into the rabbit at Animal House. Everywhere he was there. Whole night sitting with me because I was tense that whether this antibody will work or not. Otherwise, my PhDs don't. So many, like, that's the thing. But yes, I then became a joint student because it required almost 50% of ecological expertise and 50% of molecular biology and endocrinology expertise. So then in the second year after my comprehensive exam, I became a joint student of MRDG and CS between Professor Secretary and Professor.
But that's how I could know that, okay, Ratna is in ecological sciences and
Yeah,
it's about.
right. And
Yeah, that time I remember, I think Stantosh, Dipti, these are all.
and he's my junior.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing, amazing. Good to have those memories back.
I
So,
know.
so apart from that, any other challenges did you face before you applied to
There's
post?
been, in fact, Manish, like working in the field is always like full of challenges. So this was only the proposal stage I'm talking about. Now everything was approved, and we even got a small grant. Obviously, Sukumar was the main PI for that and all that. Um, and then I was ready to go to field. There were several challenges from the field. First of all, being a woman working in the field itself is a huge challenge. I still remember, I walked into the Tamil Nadu Forest Department office in range office in Tepakat in Mudumalai Tiger Reserve. And the officer sitting there told me, your family does not really like you, that they have sent you here to work in the field. I said, no, that's fine. I didn't pay attention to what he was saying. He's like, because you will be kidnapped and raped by Virappan. That time Virappan was active in the sandalwood, yeah. And I was like, I did not even expect that kind of a remark from him.
Yeah.
There is all sorts of challenges. In fact, physical challenges, mental challenges. There is a whole lot of things that one needs to, and it becomes even more difficult when you are in a place which is remote and socially isolated.
Absolutely.
Uh, there was a time when there were many, and all the PhD students who have done field ecology work goes through it. Even my own PhD students now go through it, where you are there in a field station or in a rented cottage or place where you're just by yourself, months together. You go to the field in the morning, you come back and you enter data, you have a dinner, which is, you cannot, my food habits, like when I now go home and my family says, oh, you just don't eat like typically like a big body. I think I don't even argue with them, because there's no point. My food habits, my health habits, everything gets molded into that space, that shape where I was living day in and day out for 2.5, 3 years. That was my field work journey there. That's what. All sorts of challenges. First time, going into the forest and getting charged by an elephant. Oh my God. Yeah.
So you were charged like that, and the field was after you. Oh
Yeah.
man, this is scary.
And then I also, towards the end of my PhD, I mostly during the PhD, I looked at female reproductive system and female behavior. Then I got a grant towards the end of my PhD from Rutgers, and obviously Sukumar was very supportive about it, as well as Professor Seshagiri, both of them were there. And I also wanted to look at the male reproduction and behavior. And I went to Kaziranga to do that work. So far I was also working down south in Mudumalai, Bandipur, Nagarhole, why not? These are southern part of India. I went to Kaziranga. That's another level of challenge. There, when I went into the forest department to say that I need to collect poop sample of elephant, they are like saying, that means you have to walk. I said, yeah, like anyways, elephants don't like motor noises. So most of the time, fieldwork on elephants is all by walking. He's like, this is a rhino zone. This is Scotch full of rhinos. Who will allow you to walk? I said, but I have to walk because I have to collect down sample. And so when we go and do field work, we take a field assistant with us, which is either a forest department staff or in IISc, because our Masinaguri or Modumalai field station has been established for so long. And because IISc is government part, they also could hire staff as field assistants who is to accompany us to the field. So all throughout my PhD, I had Woma. I owe my life to Woma actually, because I had tripped in the forest, I have broken my leg in the forest, I have fallen down uphill, everything. And hats off to Woma to save my life under multiple different occasions. All the samples, and I could even finish my PhD, it's because of Woma.
Amazing, amazing. And Ratna, did you have like on the lighter vein, did your colleagues teased you as a poop collector? Because for me, I was collecting even now. Because I remember, I was teased because in Medamurti's land, you had to collect the menstrual blood from the monkeys, and I was already teased that what are you doing? And sometimes I myself wondered, what am I doing?
even now, even now, people have this notion that animal behavior in ecology is very simple,
No, I
very straightforward. It's not as complicated as cancer biology or as not as complicated as bioinformatics. So they think that it is very straightforward and very simple. And all you do is like and I take it in a very jovial way. I always say that when you walk into my lab, there's a big freezer. It has poop samples of many different animals, but all non-human animals. I say it openly. That
absolutely.
so,
Wow.
yeah, I think the challenges are always lots of challenges to work in the field, and the loneliness, the frustrations of not getting data, the when you break, there was a lot of climbers on the forest floor. I did not see my feet got all entangled, and I tripped and fell in the middle of the forest, really deep inside. I had to like limp to walk, and I had to still walk and pass through all the elephant zone and limp to come out of the forest before I can get into a vehicle or a bus to take me to the field station. So there is a lot of challenges
And all these challenges and obstacles, Ratna, all these obstacles you could overcome just because of your passion and your love for the kind of work you do.
yes,
So that's
yes.
very important.
Right. Like I think I was happy that I was in the forest. So for me, that was I considered myself to be fortunate and lucky. And that's the reason I could survive. Otherwise, and it's not only my story. I think the other thing that really helped that because we had a field station, so we had different people working on different things while staying in the field station, and they all were going through the same phase. It was not you alone facing that. So that also helps to have, peers and friends to share your story.
And
That
when was that, during your PhD where you clear that you one day you want to be a professor, establish your own lab? Was that clarity with you during it?
right. I think that was again like me taking science and school days. See, during those days, and we were like also a kind of living in a either say a utopian world or something that because you're in IISc and you are the only ecological department within the country and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like the queen, like
The goddess, the god.
yeah, exactly. Also, I think for us, or for most of us, there was no alternative career that was even discussed or told to us.
Mhm.
So that is something that I don't do to my own PhD students now. Because for us, it was the only thing that, you do a postdoc and then you become a faculty.
But you never wanted, suppose, for example, I remember, watching National Geography and all that, So, I mean, there are so many stars, right? Like who kind of just do wildlife and then they make documentaries and stuff like that. So that never occurred to you that you were not fascinated by that aspect of, you know?
No, I think that hasn't occurred because also at the same time, I was not that fascinated of taking photographs and video. Like I still remember when I came back and I was preparing my colloquium slides. So Kumar and Seshagiri saw my slides and they were like saying, we need a photograph where you are doing field work and somebody is taking the photograph, like Boma or something. So I don't have that. I have all these photographs of elephants and this and that and they're like, but it will be good. So I made one trip to just go to Muthmalais. I was correct.
Modeling.
Dummy dumb, which I never analyzed also because by then I had already finished analyzing all my samples. And I asked the driver, Money was the name of the driver, to take my photograph while I'm taking done sample. And he's like, why are we doing this? You are done with your PhD, right? I said, no, I'm not still done. I have to still give my presentation. You take the photo. So
Wow.
I guess I was not a very good, even now, I'm not a very good photographer. Most of the videos, photos we now even do recording using drone because I work on crocodiles now. So now the technology is more
Advanced. Yeah.
so, but I think I'm still bad. Like we get into the vehicle and my students know that ma'am, I'm sure you are not carrying any camera. I said, no, I'm not carrying. So I think I'm still not very kind of like field savvy with
Mhm.
a lot of technology like photography and all that. That was never my thing. I think with a notebook and a pen, and binoculars and me myself with a good pair of shoes. I think that's all, and water and some food. These are all the things that you will find in my backpack when I go to field.
Amazing, amazing. So then you decided to kind of course, as a natural progression of career, you decided for a postdoc in US. And how long did you, stay in US?
6 years.
6 long years. And, it's altogether a different culture shock there, and many researchers who say go to US, they kind of like the lifestyle or they adapt to that lifestyle or, the Western comforts or the Western dollars and decide never to come back. Or even if they come back, sometimes they always start complaining and they kind of return back immediately. So what was the motivation for you to return back to India? And tell us more about the journey, of returning back to India.
So I think to is it okay if I tell a little bit of the journey of going there?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The whole journey. Yes, absolutely.
That also was a little bit digression from where I left
Mm-hmm.
or I finished my PhD. So um so I when towards the end of my fag end of my PhD, which was already 5.5 or closer to 6 years. Okay. So I think obviously I was discussing with Seshwari and Sukumar, and they both were saying that you should be continuing to work on this thing, like maybe you can work on African elephants or maybe you can work on some other mammalian system, because I was elephant is a mammal, and before that I also worked on wild dog and deer, which are also mammalian systems. So that was the thing. But somewhere in my mind I was also thinking, because the last chapter of my PhD was on pheromone, and when I started reading pheromone papers to write the last chapter or to publish the last chapter. So then I read a lot of papers on fish pheromones. And one of the paper that caught my attention was by Peter Sorensen, who discovered the one of the very first fish pheromones. Okay. Wow. So, but it was fish. Okay. And then I did not gather the courage to even discuss this with Sukumar or Seshwari, because I thought, like, okay, they were not going to accept. So I kept searching and all that. And postdoc applications are like, it's a tremendous task to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to give a smooth story that saying that I applied one place and I got it. No, I applied to multiple thousands of different places, gave hundreds of interviews. Okay, some didn't have money to support. Some I wrote Marie Curie. I didn't get it. I got Newton. There was a Newton fellowship which happens in Europe, like EU, European Union. I got it, but that was on a buttercup sanctuary, on goat sanctuary. But I didn't want to. That was like my not so high priority.
And Ratna, is it just one thing I wanted to ask? Is it that you find that these kind of projects have less funding compared to other sciences like cancer sciences?
Yeah. Like minuscule funding. Even now, as a faculty, like the major chunk goes to, within biology, the major chunk goes to stem cell and cancer, although we have never found a drug to cure them, or cancer, but the major chunk goes there.
Yeah, there's always that funding bias,
Yes.
So, but it's the onus is on the researchers of that field to kind of advocate the importance of it, and then
right. And also, I think that that should not be also an excuse not to do ecology.
Absolutely.
You also need to understand that maybe we also need funds less. Like, I can have a paper published, like, by just watching outside my window on roosting behavior of birds, whereas a cancer biologist does not have that luxury.
Exactly. Yeah.
Even that. So you have to be innovative. You can't sit with excuses and say that this is the reason that's why it is not working. So you have to be innovative and you have to come up all the time with alternative solutions. So nonetheless, so I was interested in little bit. My mind was going into working into aquatic ecosystems rather than terrestrial. So I'd applied to a lab in Florida. I had applied to Minnesota, Peter Sorensen's lab only, and then many other aquatic, along with the terrestrial also, and all continents. I did not leave any. I think except I think except Asia, I didn't apply anywhere in Asia.
But like whole of US and Europe.
Yes, then I have Australia as well.
Australia.
Yes,
Wow.
as well. And almost every other night, mostly night it has to be, I was giving interview and all that. But then I think I got like not a lot, but I got like 3, 4 positions, and Peter was one of them. Okay, and so I really, first of all, again, it was a lot of respect because that was again a little bit novel and new for me to work on pheromones. Most of my PhD was hormones, and only the last chapter was on pheromones.
Girl.
And I really had a lot, and Peter's papers were so well written, so like very yeah, and also very I will say that he had looked it from multiple different perspectives. So while reading the papers also, you will be thinking that, oh, maybe this angle he should have also looked at. And then you turn the page and you will see that he has looked at that angle. So it's like, like falling at the so, but his interview was very difficult. Okay, he took 3 rounds of interview. As if like he's giving me some permanent position or something.
Wow.
So then, but I decided to join Peter, and 2012 is when I migrated to US during the year 2012. I will never forget because I landed in Minneapolis, and everywhere it was white, covered with snow because it was October. And it was crazy in Minneapolis. And but I stayed in his lab for 6 years. I had an awesome time with him. We had our own set of fights and challenges and not talking to each other. But at the same time, we have now are extremely good collaborators. He's also happy, very good mentor.
Amazing. I mean, this is something that, I really am a bit jealous for you. That, you all throughout your career, you had really good mentors, and one mentor, one good mentor can change your life. I was also very lucky to have a very nice mentor during my PhD, but that's when I realized that, one good mentor is like really good enough to kind of change your life. And you were lucky, Ratna, that way that, right from your bachelor days, you had all sorts of good mentors.
Yes, that I will say. In fact, but Manish, I will say one thing that while during the mentorship, like I was telling you, you will not appreciate the mentorship. Like when Sukma was giving me a lot of challenges, or Professor Seshagiri was not happy with the antibody titer and made me even like go further in the experiments and still do. That time you will be frustrated. But I think once you cross the phase and you go into the next stage, and then you do something. Suppose when I went to do my postdoc, second year of my postdoc, I still remember Peter said we have to write a grant, and we have to write a grant to USGS, the federal government of United States, which is the United States Geological Survey. They give the biggest amount of money to freshwater research, which was our work. And while writing the grant proposal and while bringing it to Peter, he really absolutely write the proposal. But I think I learned it during my first year of PhD because Sukumar had asked me to write a research. And otherwise I would have never got it. It would have spoon fed and it would have told to me that this is your research question and that is all. You start working second day. I wouldn't have got that. But I was not appreciating that time. I appreciated it down the line after 5 years or 6 years. Okay, so that is something that I think even today, when I am a very strict PhD boss, like I almost openly tell my students that, if you can put in this much of effort and hard work and can tolerate me, then only you can come to the lab. But I can also feel that they probably also going through that same stage that, they may not appreciate what I ask them to do. Every other student publishes a paper in their second year because that's kind of like I aspired them to do, or I always like encourage them to get even if it's a literature review, your review paper, even if it's a short communication, get at least one publication by second year of PhD.
So that it boosts your morale, right? So
it could even be a team publication. So anything, but at least it will not only boost your morale, it also gives you the learning that how to even go through this publication journey. It's
Process.
difficult. It's a
Absolutely.
difficult process. Back and forth, rejections, this, that.
Corrections. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That is that. Then data collection, there is a very strict protocol in our lab for data storage, data collection, transparency maintained, reporting of data. So I think sometimes they may feel, oh my God, like I can even do this tomorrow. I just finished the experiment. I now want to go at crash or whatever. But I think by doing this, they are learning that, it's so important to be professional. You
Absolutely.
cannot, you have to learn the professional ethics. You cannot take your lab notebook to your hostel and enter data. You have to sit in the lab and enter or finish entering all the data before you go to your hostel or go for lunch, dinner, whatever. That is something. So I think mentorship, yes, I'm very fortunate to get a lot of good mentorship. But at the same time, I will say that I didn't appreciate also, like many others, at the time when I was getting it. I appreciated it much later and I still appreciate. Like at this stage now, yes, I appreciate it. Totally that type of guidance and mentorship I have received. So I think when I landed in US, going back to your other question that how I decided, in my mind, there was no dilemma that I will stay back in US. There was no dilemma at all. See,
You were very clear that one day I have to return back.
in fact, as such, I can't, I don't know if I should be saying it here, but maybe you can edit it later. I really didn't like US.
Okay.
Okay. And I think that
It's a personal thing, it's really a personal thing. Many people don't like it, so I mean, it's nothing to be edited, really. It's
no, I did not like, not because of the work or culture. The only reason I did not like is like, it will not satisfy my passion as an ecologist.
Mhm.
So poor in biodiversity. Like, I will go to Boundary Waters. That was the place I used to go from Minnesota for kayaking or for camping or these kind of things. I don't get to see the biodiversity which I get to see if I step out here, like from within Gujarat. If I even go to Anand or Vadodara and sit, or even Kutch, which is the highly biodiverse desert ecosystems, I get to see so much biodiversity. And to me, I think as an ecologist, because I've always loved, like since my school days, to be outside, to be loving teacher, that was not satisfying. Yes, they give a lot of their. I think their main rich biodiversity is the freshwater ecosystem because they have a lot of different kinds of fish and different other things like other aquatic mammals as well and aquatic other organisms. But still, it is no way comparable to what India has. India has all sorts of biodiversity, all sorts of ecosystem.
And the Western Ghats, I think, is one of the most diverse, biodiverse zone in the world, right? The Western Ghats.
Yeah, it is comes in the top one.
Yeah.
Okay, we also Amazon, we also
South America.
yeah, South Africa and all that. But nonetheless, you don't even have to go to Western Ghats. I'm telling, like, even if you are in like few meters or few in the outskirts of any city in India, you will see much more biodiversity because we are not. I think I liked India for not being so polished.
You like
Also,
the cows and the
the so I like the rural part of the country. I liked that I can sit on the like this. I cook. That's one of my field site now for mother crocodile. That Anand. This is a place in Gujarat where you can just sit next to a pond and watch crocodiles. Like, you don't have to be like, for some reason, this also, I couldn't appreciate the conservation attitude that US had. Like, everything needs to be prim, proper, fenced, hunted down. We don't do hunting for conservation. We don't. We have other conservation measures. Also, this connection that the indigenous group of people living in closer to the forest or within the forest, the connection that they have with the wildlife. And, like because I worked in Kaziranga, northeastern part of India, there's a huge human animal conflict, human elephant conflict. I still remember a scene where the entire house was trampled down by the elephants, and they lost a lot of agricultural crops, and the villagers were almost like literally in tears in front of the forest department. But they still said that, we control the elephants, do not kill them, because it's Ganesha god, and
the respect
in
for
their land. Yeah, we are in their land, and we don't want you to kill them. You give us compensation and you try to control the elephant. I think this attitude is so well appreciated. That is the reason we are able to conserve and maintain such high biodiversity. When I went to US, it was kind of like a shock for me that here everything is pretty proper. You can have, like, I don't know, like, uh, um, there is nothing as such wilderness. Whatever they call it, wilderness is like our
it's a segmented thing. This is not for human zone, and this is the boundaries are quite
exactly whatever you call wilderness is like our well
it's-
maintained
yeah.
kind of. So these were the reasons, and also I went there for couple of things actually. One, experience. Definitely those days I thought it was the culture. Nowadays, many people even do postdocs within India itself. But those days, that was the culture that you do postdoc abroad. Okay.
Yeah, especially US is like no, even in ISC, US is like the considered the mecca of science. So once
Right.
you should go there, then come back. That is the
Right.
culture. Yeah.
Exactly. So that was one thing. Secondly, doing PhD on your own fellowship already made a hole in my pocket or a hole in like, I did not have any savings, nothing. I was like a beggar or something. And that once I finished almost 5 years, and IISc has this pension. I said, I did not even start a job. What is this pension? I was like,
Yeah, that's true for I mean I mean you still were like okay for 5 6 years is normal. Sometimes it can stretch to 7 8 years, which is then
nah.
it's
No.
tough. Yeah.
So, okay, so financial stability. And also I wanted to experience the
A new culture.
yeah, exactly. The culture, the professional ethics. I learned a lot from US.
Mhm.
I learned how to, churn out, more, what should I say, manicured proposals or manicured papers, how to develop your professional ethics, how to, manage. I learned from Peter how not to manage a lab and how to manage a lab. Okay. So, different things I learned. I will definitely not say that my experience was not worthy enough. Experience was really good, but there was never a dilemma in my mind that I would not come back. In fact, I told Peter that I'm here in your lab for 3 years. In fact, initially that was the plan, 3 years. And then I will go back. And he's like, okay, we will see this, that. That was the thing.
Mhm.
But then I think we got along so well. We also had a lot of fights. I'm a very stubborn anyway, so I had fights with almost all my mentor. That is like
You fight with people you're concerned with, right? Otherwise you don't fight. Yeah.
concern, and also these are like scientific criticisms and scientific fights. Your thoughts may not match, your objectives may not match. So those kind of fights, not like
Normal, yeah.
personal fights I didn't have with anybody. So, but then I came back and I started. That was again another whole lot of applications and very difficult, also extremely difficult because
It's extremely difficult to get a position in India that because you are fighting with so many Indian students who are planning to come back to India, right? So
somebody did not even go. So there were people who did not leave India. And I know, and let's not take any name of the institutes and all that. I know that when some institutes, just because they wanted to hire faculty soon, they took them rather than waiting for a person who will wrap up things in US and come. I needed at least 6 months. Okay. To
yeah,
wrap up
that's
things.
great.
I cannot just leave, drop everything at the like and come over here. So
And
those
Ratna,
were
can you highlight the process, for the audience? How did you apply to the Indian?
so you applied basically almost everywhere which has ecology. I actually applied everywhere which has ecology.
Mhm.
Okay. faculty. And then you go.
Including in the IISc. Did you apply to IISc?
I never applied to IC because I thought that, it's hard to get, like, they never for their own pass out students. I could only fit into Center for Ecological Sciences and not any other department.
Mhm.
And kind of that was the kind of like all among all our batchmates and seniors, it was kind of the underlying thing that if you are a pass out from the same department, that department may not take you as a faculty.
Okay.
That was the thing. Though it happened for some that they were happened, but I did not apply to it. I till date I have never applied to it. So that's the thing. I applied to almost every other institute, but some institutes I obviously I'm not saying that I'm good enough to get qualified to all the institutes. Some institute I did not get any job. It's like some institutes. It's like a black hole. You don't even know if your application is screened, if it's shortlisted. No response at all till date. There is no
It
response.
is bizarre because, at least the academic institutes, they should have courtesy enough to respond, especially if somebody from US has taken so much efforts to come back to their own country and apply. Because I have seen all other countries, including African countries, they at least reply back to the candidates. So this is,
An automated acknowledgement, like even an automated acknowledgement never received. And then some obviously replied, but I gave job talks and maybe it didn't click there and all that. So some job talks happened physical or in person. Some happened online.
they visited like them personally, made a trip from US to India, or how was it?
Some were actually very accommodating. Like, if you are making a trip to India in the next 1 year or so, we can schedule your job talk around that time. So usually you make a trip to India and then you visit these places where, so you have a bunch of places where you can give job talk. That was one of the agenda I followed when I was seriously applying. So there is a phase when you casually apply, at least for me it happened, just to check if anything clicks.
Yeah.
And there is a phase when you're really serious to apply, like you really are excited that this is the stage that you need to move on to the next phase. So during the serious application phase, yes, I whenever I visited India, I made sure that at least I could visit different institutes and finish those job talks where I have been invited to give job talks. Um, and also, other thing that I actually did not do is like Ramalinga Swami and Ramanuja Fellowship. These are the two fellowships that I did not feel comfortable to apply to because I had heard not so good stories from people who have applied for that, because they say that they take you as a fellow, but then finally 5 years down the line, they may not absorb you as a faculty.
Oh, that's yeah, that's
Yeah.
I mean, then you are in middle of nowhere, basically.
Right. So many of the mentors or many of my own peers told me that it's always good to come to India with a proper faculty position rather than these fellow positions, because this is not going to be a strategy. Yeah.
I agree totally. I mean, if you're not certain about things, if you come back, because of course, these Western countries have more opportunities. So
Right.
once you have taken a decision to come back, you should be sure that your position is safe.
And when I was serious, like for me, there was never an option that I will want to go back to US. I knew that if I come to India, I will put it on my efforts here, and I want to succeed, and I want to
Establish a successful life.
as a scientist here. So that was the thing. So I didn't apply for those. I applied for all regular faculty positions.
So
Then Ahmedabad University clicked. Yeah.
So that was it. Like, how many rounds of interviews do you have to give in Ahmedabad?
So job talk was 2 rounds and interview was 3.
All right. And then they finally released the merit list where you were selected.
There was no merit list. This time there's no merit list. There's an appointment letter.
Directly. Wow.
Yeah.
That's that. And that time you were in US, right? Like when you had this appointment letter.
I was in US till 2017 December. Not December, 2017. Yeah, first week of December. Then I took December off. Like wanted to come back home and, do things. And 18 January, I joined Ahmedabad.
Amazing. So once you came back, you had to kind of start a lab, initiate a department. So what does your current lab work looks like? Tell us more
So
about it. Yeah.
So my current lab right now, we try to understand ecological interactions,
Mhm.
both among species, like interspecies, as well as within a species, intra-species, as well as species interacting with environment. Because today's environment is highly artificial, with lot of fragmentation, with lot of anthropogenic disturbances. So we basically try to understand that how species either interacting with the environment or interacting with other species or both together adapt and survive in natural uh, settings or in natural environment. So that is the main theme of the work of the lab. Lab is called Ecology and Environment Lab. We currently work on three different model organisms. One is the freshwater mugger crocodile or marsh crocodile. The second is a freshwater fish which is endemic to India, which is the green chromite or Etroplus. And the third one is a exotic fish which has recently being introduced in Indian freshwater ecosystem and which has been brought from Amazon, the Amazon sailfin catfish. And they have now been causing a lot of nuisance and problems in the Indian freshwater. So these are the three model organisms we work on. Lab is 50 to 60% field work and also 30 to 40% lab, like in laboratory indoor work, which involves a lot of molecular biology work like DNA work, as well as hormone work, as well as a little bit of also bioinformatic work. But at the same time, also a lot of behavioral work that we do on fishes in the indoor laboratory conditions, as well as understand. So the fish projects have one leg in the field and one leg in the lab. But obviously, for the crocodile project, it's all in the field, like all in the wild, little bit in zoos and captive conditions. And sample analysis for both fish and crocodile happens in the bench lab, which is all the DNA, hormone, or water parameter measurements. That's and
Yes.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Can I take a short break, Manish? I have to switch on the light. It's
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
dark.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. 1 second.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So, I mean, comparatively, Ahmedabad is a newer university. So, I mean, you would have faced, say, many challenges in establishing your lab. What were the biggest challenges?
Huh. That's that's a lot of challenges. First of all, I was the first ecologist to join the university. So the one of the challenge was, I think I even have an article. You can even refer to the article in India Bioscience. I have an
I think
article.
just send me the link and I can put it also in the description. So, this is
Right.
about all the challenges you said, right?
Right. This thing was specifically they took the interview or the article was about actually on what are the challenges you faced as a young faculty, and that was
That is really good. That is helpful for me.
yeah. So um
And
you
also
know
tell us, Ratna, like how did you overcome those challenges? And because you could establish a lab, you have a functional, you have a lot of PhD students. I saw on your webpage. And
right,
yeah, so how did you, overcome all these challenges?
right. So I sent you the link here.
Thank you. Yes. Perfect.
So that's a whole set. See, that's why we should have focused only on being faculty because it's becoming so long. I think
Don't worry, we will have, part one, part two. So that's totally fine.
yeah. So the main challenge was I was the only ecologist. So the here, because it's a university setup, so you have to take classes or courses and you have to do a lot of teaching. So the main question that one of the biggest challenging questions that I faced actually is like, if you are away in the field, who's going to take your classes? And then people
But
would
you
start.
can always have like teaching assistants like in the West, right? Like who can support you with
We
teaching.
have, but they can't teach.
Yeah, that's like your PhD students.
They can teach, like, even in US. So I was, my postdoctoral position later became a research associate position. In fact, Minnesota used to call it as a researcher six position, where I had to teach. And I wanted that because I wanted that experience.
Mhm.
Even in US, the TA or the teaching assistants actually are mostly responsible for grading assignments, for conducting quiz, and for
Supporting, yeah, the main.
exactly, and also maybe holding like kind of gap filling. If one day you are away, they can gap fill. If you give them the content to teach, they will do it. But field work will not happen in one day.
That's true.
Field work will be 10 days, 15 days. And in 15 days duration, you can easily miss 6, 8 classes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a large number for TAs to take care of. Okay. So the thing that I had to like face is like, how do I do my field work? Okay. And then all these unwanted suggestions and advices started coming. It's like, why don't you choose a model organism which is just next door? Or which maybe you can do some theoretical ecology, which I am anyways not good at. I don't do theoretical ecology. So then, like, so those things you need to ignore and you have to come up with a strategy. So I came up with a strategy is like, hire manpower as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they will be your proxy in the field.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the manpower? First 1 year, who's going to come and do a PhD with me? Because I don't even have a lab. I don't have grants. But people have forgotten, like, even if you tell your peers that, I have joined here, they will not remember who did a PhD on elephants some 6 to 7 years back. So you are rebuilding your connections actually.
Absolutely.
You have zero, I will not say zero, but you have very little identity in the country. Okay. Because you were gone for 6 years. So then what you do is actually you bring in all sorts of students. You bring in undergraduate students, you bring in master's student because it's a university. You have no dearth for students. How you bring in students? You actually cannot bring every student because everybody is not able to do ecology, and you don't want to collect garbage data. So you bring in, you start teaching. Immediately launched courses on animal behavior and ecology within 3 months of joining Ahmedabad University, because through my courses, I can evaluate students and I can eventually bring them to my lab.
Wow.
So that is the pipeline I started building. And in the first year, when I had joined 2018, I had only masters and undergraduate students, but they were really good. Some of them have even published papers with.
Wow. Wow.
But they are the foundation that helped me to not only set up my fish lab, my behavioral fish lab, as well as to collect pilot or baseline data to work on field, like field work on crocodiles. So that's how, and also you're juggling with many different things. You have to teach. You also have to get your proposals sent because you need money, and that's when you can bring in PhD students. And you also have to, you couldn't finish all your publications by the time you left US. So
Yeah,
you
so easy writing, wrapping those up.
plus mentoring all these students. Everybody needed mentorship. It's a lot of skill transfer. Longer hours, longer days spent in the lab. I still remember those days to build the lab, to be in the lab. I used to come 9 in the morning, sometimes sleep 9 in the night or 10 in the night because it took so much time to do all this. So that is how, but you have to do it because, there was no other alternative. And then you started talking to the vendors, to company people, this, that, like who set up the lab. And then more I I think in my first year, I spoke the maximum to the civil work people, because I really wanted Fishnap to get done.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was talking to the plumber of the university, the engineer of the university, like the all the people to get it going.
And Ratna, no, this is a very good point. And there I wanted to, interrupt a bit because I wanted to ask you, because you're a woman scientist, and India is quite a patriarchal country, right? So how did you?
Then everywhere, I can give stories from US, but yeah, anyways.
Yeah, so I mean, but I still say that US, I mean, women are more independent, and India sometimes they judge you for many things, right? So uh, how did you overcome that patriarchy, and then you also face some men's pay?
Yes, they do. So they also tend to get very personal. Sometimes you have to avoid those. See, I think if you read also my India Bioscience article, I think I can quote from there that over time I have become this grumpy old lady who also sometimes can
No, tell me this. I think you were sweet enough to accept the podcast.
because it's not in my territory, or that's why I'm not you like this. So this grumpy old lady who sometimes also is a very bossy or difficult. So you like whenever a woman talks, you get this tagline that, oh, this she's a very bossy woman. But when a man talks, that's not a problem, because man is expected to talk and woman is expected to listen. So
But that is
that is
all
that
stereotype.
is the difference. So when you talk, that is when you have an opinion. It's like a shock, like, oh God, you have an opinion? Like, yes, I am sitting in this committee and having this meeting, so I better have an opinion. I'm not like a wall listening. That's what. You know,
Absolutely.
there are problems. There are problems. Also, people think that whoever works in the field has no social life, or they cannot have any personal life. But you just ignore. I think you basically develop a like
Big
thick
wall.
skin
Mhm.
and a really a lot of stimulus filtering you have to learn. Like in order to lead a very peaceful life, and that's what I think I have learned. All sorts of questions also, as also like like um when one of the questions, and like also as a woman I often face is that and that like you could do so. In fact, somebody also told right on my face that people who want family may not be doing a field ecology work. I said, okay, maybe. Ah,
It's
yes,
bizarre. So
I know many field ecologists who has a family, but I don't need to give you that answer. But if that's your thought, you
pretty on linear. Yeah, this is bizarre. Yeah.
and also other thing that you have to understand that you cannot fight every battle. It's such a waste of energy, and it takes a lot of energy to fight those battles. So you have to pick your battles and fight it there. And I really chose my battles. The battles, like these kind of remarks, I didn't fight. But the remark, like, how will you do your field work because you have to teach on campus, those are the battles I really had to fight. And I fought at different levels. And now I'm very proud that very recently, university has started a cluster in ecology, which is a
Amazing.
theme based research grant to only give to ecological research. And they even hired two new faculty who are also fellow ecologists.
Wow, that's
So
amazing.
I have now fellow colleagues who are ecologists. I didn't have it for the almost 4 5 years.
Wow, that's so impressive, Ratna. So tell us, if somebody wants to say be a professor in India, what are the skills and the qualities that they need to have? Any particular advice you have for candidates?
I think one of the thing is that you have to have a lot of perseverance. You need to have that for sure. And you also have to develop an attitude to work in India. You cannot, even if you have worked in US or Europe or anywhere, you cannot think that, okay, this happened so fast in US and here it's going to happening. So you have to just stop comparing. stop comparing when you move from India to US, because I've seen people standing in the grocery stores and counting that, oh, dollar is this much rupee and converting and all that. Don't compare. Don't compare when you migrate from anywhere.
Absolutely.
Leave that thing there and then come into a new skin. Bring a new, like, come in a new skin and with a new attitude. And I think whenever you compare, that's where you are actually digging your own grave.
Great.
Because you get frustrated, uh, you will end up making mistakes. That is not advisable at all.
Wow. So, Ratna, as a follow-up question, what would be your advice specifically for the women in STEM?
Choose carefully your battles. Because you are a woman, you will face a lot of challenges and lot of obstacles. But it's a waste of energy sometimes to fight every battle that is thrown at you. You have very limited time. So pick your battles and then come up with a strategy. It may seem to be like a long drawn process, but honestly, this is what I have survived. That is how I have survived. Sometimes those battles can be won by maybe sitting down over a cup of tea and coffee and politely explaining to the person on the other side that this is what your thoughts are and this is what you thought, and given your experience and giving your expertise in this field, this is, you have a gut feeling that this is how it is going to work. This is one option. The other option could be that maybe it is not working in this way, but will you then retreat? My advice, maybe you can retreat, that's up to you. But my advice, or what I have learned, is that if I really feel strongly about it, if it really affects my own functioning in the professional domain, then I will not hesitate to even have a professional argument with that person. So maybe it will be a little bit, you can put to be a little intimidating if that person is higher in kind of administrative position or management position above you. But at the end of the day, you remember that if you are not standing or holding your ground and not raising your voice or even showing that you are have a voice, okay, that may bite you later, because how many battles will you let go like this?
Absolutely. So, you have to stand on the ground, as you rightly said.
Have to stand. You have to at least remember, sometimes also many women come and tell me that, what if I'm wrong? You also start doubting yourself. Okay, you could be wrong. Everybody can be wrong. If anybody can be wrong, even the person who is on the other side, who is higher up in management or administrative position, could also be wrong. But you have to try it out and then learn from your own mistakes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But having a voice helps.
Amazing. Amazing, Ratna. So, on the lighter note, Ratna, I think it has been great talking to you, but tell us about your hobbies. What are your current hobbies?
Oh, that I didn't even know actually. Like, I think I've lost and developed and find out new hobbies to do. So this thing have not been keep up. But one of my hobbies that actually I have kind of always had it from my school days is like, on and off, I like to try out new recipes.
Ah,
Yeah, it may not be always proper. It may not always involve even like a proper cooking procedure. It could be also those no bake cookies, or even could be a smoothie, which will not require a lot of prep time. But yes, I kind of like to try out recipes, which have always often turned out to be disaster, which my sister and father often complains because they had made them drink that or eat that. That's kind of one of my hobby. And my other hobby is also I love watching movies. So if there is any, and sometimes it helps me also to, kind of like relax and uh, uh,
chill
take a
out.
break. Yeah, take a break from work and all that. I love watching movies. I watch both I love watching Hindi movies. I watch a lot of Hindi movies. I also watch a lot of Hollywood movies. Recently, my niece also have gotten me introduced to Korean movies. I also like watching those. So I really like. I watch. There's no particular genre that I can't watch horror, but other than that, anything else I'm okay with.
Recommend me a good Hindi movie because it is so difficult for me to find out a good Hindi movie. The last one, by the way, I saw was Action Hero from Anshuman Khurana, which I enjoyed.
Oh, right. Yeah, I like it's a little bit dark, but I like the color which got released on Netflix. It's
Really? Okay, I will go and watch that.
a little bit dark, but I liked it. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. And you also mentioned that kind of you watch Hollywood movies. Any Hollywood recommendations?
I also like the Bridgerton Diaries and Bridgerton, which was I was watching on Netflix. But as for the movies, recently what did I watch very recently as Hollywood? Um, Don't Look Up. I liked it. It's like
It's scientist, yeah. It's Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah, it's
I like Leonardo. And star lineup was really good. Meryl Streep and Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence. Yeah, why will I not watch? Okay. And what else did I think that's the recent one I watched. It is either on Amazon or Netflix.
yeah. But then
And
I watched actually a year ago. The recently I watched is I think The Circle by Tom Hanks. Where like
oh, I know also that maybe.
so
Then
really
one other series on Netflix, which was also very good. Made MAIT made. It's a
okay.
very in a struggle about a woman. So, but I
And,
liked it.
and the Korean one, the last I watched was Parasite.
That's the one I also
But any other Korean movie you can.
actually introduced me to last time I went there. Something I forgot. Business Proposal.
Business Proposal. Okay, that's great recommendation. So Ratna, respecting your time, I would say thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. It's been pleasure talking with you.
Thank you, and thank you for listening to me for so long. I have never given an interview for so long.
I really I
Yeah.
enjoyed the conversation, Ratna. It was such a pleasure. And to the audience, thank you for tuning into Biology Career Insights. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and get the latest episodes delivered straight to your device. See you next time. Bye, Ratna. Have a nice day and a nice weekend ahead.
Same to you. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye. Bye, Ratna.
Bye.